Thank you for joining us today. My name is Amy Gendusa English. I'm the project director for the Energy Partnerships Project here at the National Community Action Partnership. We will today be hearing from panelists, a number of panelists from important federal partners, including the Department of Energy, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, and some of their community-based partners in this interesting workforce development partnership. Next slide. Before we move on, I would like to recite the promise of community action. I welcome you to come off mute and say it with me or follow along. The promise of community action. Community action changes people's lives, embodies the spirit of hope, improves communities, and makes America a better place to live. We care about the entire community, and we are dedicated to helping people help themselves and each other. Next slide. All right, as I said, today's webinar represents an important partnership between a number of federal agencies. And so without further ado, I will turn it over to Amanda Rains, representing the U.S. Department of Energy, to kick us off.
All right, thanks, Amy. Hi, everyone. I'm Amanda Rains, and I serve as the Senior Policy Analyst for the Weatherization Assistance Program at the Department of Energy. I'm happy to be here to introduce my HUD colleagues who will be sharing information about a workforce development pilot focused on helping WAP sub-grantees recruit new workers needed in order to achieve the goal of serving over 250,000 homes and spending $3.5 billion from the bipartisan Infrastructure Law Act. We want to thank our HUD colleagues for partnering on this pilot, from the leadership in the Office of Strategic Initiatives, Field Policy and Management, to the HUD regional offices, to the staff at the Public Housing Authority. I will leave it to them to share all the exciting details, but I want to thank all the pilot participants personally and thank Middle Georgia CAC staff for being here today to share their experience. I appreciate the pilot participants for seeing the opportunities, recognizing the strategic partnership, not only at the federal level between DOE and HUD, but at the local level between community action agencies and public housing authorities. We hope this is the start of a long and prosperous relationship with HUD and the public housing authorities, and WAP staff and DOE would welcome your input and feedback on the ways we can support more efforts like this in local communities. So I would like to turn it over to my HUD colleagues.
Thank you so much, Amanda. I appreciate it. Good afternoon, everybody. Go ahead and go on the next slide, please. This afternoon, we're going to be going through some of the background of how this partnership was developed. We're going to introduce our project team. We're going to look at how this partnership has worked and how we're looking at hoping and how it'll flourish further. We're going to hear from a group of panelists from Middle Georgia who participated in the pilot program. And then we're going to have some time for dialogue and Q&A. So while we're presenting, I ask that you go ahead and enter any questions you may have into the Q&A, and we'll have that dedicated time at the end to answer any questions, really open it up for dialogue. We would really love to hear from you and how, based on the information that we share with you, how you foresee a successful and prosperous partnership as well, and anything that we can do to make it stronger, both for all the partners that are involved, as well as those that we're serving, the workers, the individuals in HUD communities, etc. Next slide, please. My name is Laisha Summers. I am a program analyst in the Office of Strategic Initiatives, which is in the Office of Field Policy and Management at Housing and Urban Development. I am leading this charter project team within HUD Field Policy and Management, and I have a really fantastic team with me as well as internal partners that support public housing authorities and other internal offices within HUD. Debbie?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Deborah Knight, and I'm a senior management analyst in the Louisville, Kentucky field office. Welcome.
And Diana will be joining us briefly, but she is also with the Office of Field Policy and Management in headquarters with me. A lot of her work is on risk management and supporting our Chief of Staff. And she'll be joining us in a moment.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Bruce Brodoff. I'm a Public Affairs Officer for HUD New England, which handles the 6 states in the New England region. So welcome and happy to be a part of the Weatherization Charter.
Thank you, Bruce, and thank you, Debbie. Next slide, please. So I wanted to give a little bit of background and context into how this partnership and this engagement really started. A lot of my work has to do with Section 3 labor policy, which states that where we invest HUD dollars, whether that is developing public housing, remodeling, et cetera, investing in community development infrastructure, a lot of those labor hours are directed to HUD residents, low-income individuals, public housing residents, et cetera. So my office really started to look at different federal agencies and their workforce efforts, programs, funding, et cetera. And we started working with Department of Energy on weatherization because that career path is so similar to many of the jobs that we are hoping to fill with our Section 3 labor policy program. With the $3.5 billion from the bipartisan infrastructure law investment to further support weatherization, we recognize a phenomenal opportunity to direct those opportunities into HUD communities so that not only are we connecting individuals to jobs, but they're not just jobs, but also really skills building career path opportunities with transferable skills into later down the road into these Section 3 jobs that we have, or into apprenticeships and union jobs. There's so many opportunities, and especially with a growing industry like clean energy, we would be really setting our HUD residents up for success for their career paths and economic opportunity. So with the fantastic partnership that we've been able to develop with Department of Energy, and now with community action partnerships and with NASCASP, I'm really looking forward to seeing how much further we can really take this and how many lives we can impact together with your program and our people and the strategic and intentional efforts that we have to connect HUD residents and low-income individuals within our communities to the number of opportunities being generated through the Weatherization Assistance Program. Next slide, please. So our goal with this effort is to increase career pathway opportunities for HUD-assisted individuals and really strategically connect them to weatherization-related jobs, whether that's the retrofitting positions or the admin supporting the work, et cetera. There's so many opportunities that go into this, and that really helps open up more doors for our HUD residents, because not everybody's interested in the same career path. However, there's a lot of different skills needed to really execute and implement the Weatherization Assistance Program. We're also looking forward to increasing the number of partnerships between HUD communities and the weatherization service providers such as yourselves. I know in many contexts, there's already some engagements and partnerships going on between community action partnerships and HUD communities, public housing authorities, for example. And with this project and partnership, we're looking to kind of shift that narrative so that not only are we providing services to the same audience, but we're also targeting that audience for the career opportunities generated by the federal funding programs. And next slide, please. So earlier on, we had mentioned that we had done some pilot work. We have 4 pilot communities we launched in February of 2023. We've been working with them to, again, strategically connect HUD residents to weatherization jobs. It's been a little bit different in each of our communities. Some have held job fairs. Some have invited the community action partners to attend resident engagement events. Others have standing calls and kind of just keeping things in mind for how we get residents into training programs. So we've seen some success already. And there's been relationships and connections being developed between these communities as we're moving forward. So we will be having Middle Georgia in just a moment, our panelists joining us to hear about their experience from building up the partnership to what they did to connecting residents to these jobs, what they're going to be doing moving forward, etc. With this pilot, we've also been able to assess some of our challenges and recommendations to making these efforts more effective and beneficial to our HUD residents, and what we can do all together to make this more of a fruitful and prosperous partnership. So I would like to give a shout out to all of our pilot sites. We have Roanoke, Virginia, Chicago, Illinois, Middle Georgia, and Lowell, Massachusetts. Lowell was the first of the sites to host a job fair back in April. They were highlighting weatherization careers, but it was an Earth Day job fair. So they had several different employers there, including the weatherization providers, their contractors. They had some federal agencies there. It was a nice variety of career path opportunities for our HUD residents. And then in Middle Georgia, I don't want to give away any spoilers, but they also had a job fair. In Chicago, they have not had a job fair, but they are in touch pretty often with the with CETA out there to connect residents to training opportunities. And so we have had a few folks go through the solar training program that was kind of tangentially related to their weatherization conversations. And then in Roanoke, they've had the CAP agency attend the resident engagement events, whether that was a barbecue or some sort of fair. They've had various things where they've been able to come and hold like an information table. And next slide, please, and we will get into the panel. So first, I would love for each of my panelists to jump on and introduce themselves.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
Mm-hmm.
My name is Johnny Lattimore. I'm a management analyst from the Atlanta Regional Office of HUD, and that's also in the Office of Field Policy and Management.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alma Clay. I am the procurement specialist with Middle Georgia Community Action Agency located in Warner Robins.
Hi, I'm Betty Fox. I'm lead case manager for Warner Robins Housing Authority Job Plus program.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sonia Hines. I'm the case manager for the Middle Georgia Investment Board with the Warner Robins Housing Authority Job Plus program.
Thank you so much. So my first question is going to go to Johnny. HUD's Field Policy Management Division often plays as the connector role within our communities for cross-programmatic initiatives such as this. We have the relationships that we have been fostering on the ground within our communities, and our role in field policy is really to kind of hold hands and be that front door for HUD and make sure that services and programs and partners are all aligned and connected and really intentionally focused. Can you share how you use this position in Field Policy and Management Office with those local relationships in mind to support the weatherization pilot in Georgia?
Well, sure. It first started out, of course, with the connection with our Public and Indian Housing Office. We were able to have the direct connection with the Housing Authority. Once we were able to kind of look over the initiative and understand all the moving parts and partners that needed to be a part of the process. And when we set up calls between Middle Georgia Community Action Agency and the Warner Robins Housing Authority, and I do want to highlight Vanessa Mahan because she also was the first HUD employee to kind of make the connect with both entities to start the conversation, to talk about, again, the weatherization initiative, to understand the needs of both agencies. I think also to highlight the goal that this was really to target our housing residents in that area, and to understand how vital it was that they would have an opportunity at these employment or these jobs that were coming up through Ms. Clay's entity. So we set up regular calls. We pretty much fleshed out every detail regarding what everyone's role was going to be. And from that point, it became very seamless. I feel like if they didn't know each other already between the two, it felt like they were old friends. So I felt like this whole process was very seamless.
I love to hear it. Thank you for sharing. My next question is going to be for Warner Robins, so Sonia and Betty. Could you provide some context around the motivations and self-sufficiency goals that you tend to see from your residents? Now, I know that your organization is a Jobs Plus program, and for those that are unfamiliar with Jobs Plus, it is a HUD funding program that really aims to connect resources and opportunities to HUD residents for career paths, education, training, apprenticeships, etc. And of course, Sonia and Betty, feel free to share more information on Jobs Plus. But with that in mind, would love to hear about the motivations and self-sufficiency goals that you tend to see from the residents.
So basically, when we most of our enrollees, they want to change their lives and provide better quality of life for their families. And when the grant was initially written, the biggest obstacles, the biggest barriers were for transportation and childcare. A lot of our enrollees are like single parents, and they have school age kids or younger, and a lot of times they want to get jobs that work around their kids' schedules, especially during the summertime. You're working, your kids are not in school, and childcare is the biggest barrier. And transportation, most of the individuals didn't have vehicles, and Warner Robins does not have a public transportation system. So what we do is we assist the enrollees by providing them with the job fairs that we have in the community, so they don't have to worry about going to different companies to meet the recruiters and get interviews. We bring the recruiters to them, and we also provide them with transportation to the job fairs. We, when they're hired, we also provide them with transportation to and from work as for a limited time period. And we also coordinate with the Middle Georgia Community Action Agency with assistance in getting their kids enrolled in Head Start and CHIPS, CAPS. So when we have success stories, we provide what we call a monthly spotlight for those success stories in the Housing Authority monthly newsletter. And that kind of advertises the success for the program to all the residents within the communities, and that gives them the kind of inspire other residents to try to enroll in the program. And we care about them. We call and check up on them, and we don't just do job training. We also assist them with other personal things that they might need help with. Like if they need food, we contact the food pantry to provide them or take them there to get food. If they need clothing closet. So we do a little bit more than just what we normally do for case management.
That's outstanding. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And just a little additional tidbit, the 4 communities that we used for our pilot sites, they are all Jobs Plus grantees. There's not a ton of Jobs Plus communities out there. There's a cohort every year, but there are other self-sufficiency funding programs that HUD has as well. So here and there, we'll have a housing authority that does have staff like Sonia and Betty that are really committed to the jobs and career path opportunities and economic opportunities for HUD residents. And where there aren't, we also have HUD field staff really kind of helping make those connections as well. With the employment opportunities in mind, Sonia and Betty, could you tell us about how you're preparing the residents for the employment opportunities?
Well, we offer, a lot of them don't have the right clothing for interviews. We offer that. And we also have reached out to certain people in the community that will provide a clothing closet for them to come pick out something for an interview. And we also offer supportive services. So if they need to go purchase anything, we help with that also. So we try to help them in many ways to help them perform, get to the job and do the job. We also we check on them once they get the job. We motivate them. If they feel that they're not understanding the job, we try to talk them through it and let them know we all go through that when first starting the job, and we try to keep them motivated to continue to go and grow.
Yeah, absolutely. Based on my engagements and hearing from staff like you at housing authorities, really seeing that consistent support, the motivation, the celebration of their success in those, Monday newsletters. I think that's really phenomenal and such a great way to get others motivated and build that motivation in the individuals that had that successful moment so they can continue to ride that wave. I'll have one more question for you and then I'll stop interrogating you, Sonia and Betty. When you hosted a job fair back in June, how was that planned out and executed, and who were each of the, the roles of each of the partners between the Housing Authority, Middle Georgia Community Action Agency, and HUD FPM's office?
Well, basically, we coordinate with the Middle Georgia Community Action Agency. We had follow-up meetings, Zoom meetings. We just coordinate with them basically through the meetings. And as far as the Warner Robins Housing Authority portion of it, we produce the flyers, we pass it out in the neighborhood. We posted that information on the Facebook. We posted on all our Instagram. We put a QR code, so if the people wanted to scan the QR code on the flyer to get further information, we went door to door like an insurance salesman or a salesman and provided each how per unit of the housing authority with a flyer. We personally posted on their door. So to get that out to all the residents in the Warner Robin Housing Authority community. And we just did a lot of coordination with the Middle Georgia Community Action through Zoom meetings and stuff, and that kind of led to having a successful job fair.
Yes. Even on the morning of, it started out kind of slow. We hit the communities and knocked on doors to remind them, hey, this is what's going on today, to remind them. And they started coming. We reposted on social media and the overflow came.
Oh, good. And this is actually related to you. There was a question that came in through the chat asking how you are supplying transportation. Is that with gas cards? Is that like a PHA, Public Housing Authority owned vehicle? What does that look like?
Okay, 2 hour job fairs. We do that with Warner Robins Housing Authority vehicle. Now they obtain a job for 30 days. We offer Uber services and we pay for 30 days. Max is 45. But we try to offer that to get them started, and then maybe they'll find a coworker or somebody in the family that sees them trying will help them with transportation after those days are up.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right, Alma, I've got a few questions for you as well. With your participation at the job fair, I believe that there was some hiring going on. what was it that made them good candidates? Was it their skills, character, interests? What did that look like from your end?
We had several that had inquired about exactly what is weatherization. So I had the opportunity to explain what the weatherization program was all about. A lot of people don't know what weatherization means. It was just the fact that they showed interest in the job in the first place. And we did have one gentleman who actually did an application based on the information that we gave him. He told us a little bit about himself, what his current status was as far as employment, and that he was looking for a job where he could use the basic skills that he had, but also to learn more, and especially not knowing exactly what weatherization was, it was also an educational opportunity for him as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So as your organization continues to hire for weatherization, because it is going to be continuous, right, over time, you have new projects, you have more funding coming through. How do you see your organization partnering with HUD, with the Public Housing Authority for targeting the HUD residents in the future? Do you anticipate more job fairs, transitioning to maybe direct referrals to be determined?
Absolutely more job fairs. Currently, that's it's been a successful thing for us having job fairs in different locations. Actually, because of the location of Middle Georgia Community Action Agency, we serve about 20 to 24 counties. And so we are looking at trying to partner with other HUD agencies that are in any of those communities as well. From what I've heard from HR, that they like to schedule those. We really would like to connect to the right partners because we had a successful event with Warner Robins. I'm quite sure that another one in another location where we have HUD communities would be just as successful. So of course, that's our main goal is targeting those areas, letting people know exactly what weatherization is about and how they can get involved with community action.
Thank you. And in the past, had you engaged with the Public Housing Authority on this level or any other context?
This was my first time directly dealing with a HUD agency in a partnership like this. However, I do know that we have other programs like Head Start and the LIHEAP program who have also benefited from having these situations in the other HUD communities. That's been successful as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And Johnny, my last question is going to be for you. As you've been engaging with Sonia, Betty, Alma, and these new not new communities, but communities that are newer to this intentional partnership for workforce development, for weatherization, what has surprised you or impressed you the most about them?
How much time do you have? Okay. But no, I'd say the biggest, you've heard them speak about their experiences and their connection. I think the biggest thing that impressed me so much was that the really face-to-face personal connection that they have with the residents. Mm-hmm. When I talked to Miss Betty, she absolutely told me, and I saw when the residents came in for the job fair, Miss Betty, we got your note, we got the reminder, we're here, we're interested in the jobs. So that it was evident that they have a very great relationship, great communication, and that these residents do really trust them. Mm-hmm. And so I think with any initiative that we work on, you can't ask for anything better than that, because that makes our job a lot easier. That makes it a lot easier for us to get the services to the ones that most need it. And same thing with Ms. Clay, her having the, bringing the Head Start in, because we understood, or they understood, that most of the residents that would be applying for the jobs, childcare was going to be a priority. So I can't really speak more highly enough than as far as how seamless this process was. I felt like we were already a team before we met in person. So again, it made the job fair enjoyable. It was great to see so many people come in and be interested in the jobs and really taking a interest in changing, again, their lives as far as through economic opportunity. So, I mean, like you said, I couldn't have written it any better, and I expect and hope that other initiatives that we work on where we connect with the local community go as smoothly as this did. It was great.
Thank you so much. I know anytime I visited a housing authority or engaged with leadership of housing authorities, I'm just always blown away at their priority of relationships with the individuals that are there and helping them identify and build up their vision for what they see for themselves, not just the staff putting hey, this is what you need to do XYZ, but really say, what do you want to do? Okay, let's work together on how we get you there. And so it's really what I've seen, experienced, and heard across the different housing communities is how much they value the individual's experience, and the individual's vision and pathways. And what we're doing is giving them a menu of options and guidance of how they can get from A to B with their end goals in mind. So I really want to thank our Georgia partners. I think you guys have done a really outstanding job of not just partnering, but maintaining the priority of the individual's interest in mind. Not only connecting them to career opportunities, but also keeping in mind the barriers that they often face to not just keeping the job, but also maintaining the job, and having the Head Start program, having having information of the Head Start program there as well, so that people know that there's childcare programs. That's often one of the biggest barriers to jobs and economic opportunities. So to have that robust look and perspective will not only help the individuals in the long run, but also help the turnover rates of the workers, which help the organizations and the employers in the long run as well. So thank you so much. I appreciate all of you. I would like to see if anybody has any questions. In here, it looks like in the chat, what job positions or roles were residents hired to? And Alma, I believe it was one weatherization retrofit. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And then did you have any applicants for participation in the Head Start program as well?
We actually did, and there was one child that was enrolled into Head Start. We also had Head Start positions available, as well as some community service clerical positions that were available as well. So we did have more than just the applicant that was hired that had actually went through the application process. Unfortunately, for one reason or another, they weren't hired, but I still believe that was very successful in the fact that we did get someone hired specifically for the weatherization program, which was our goal.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Go ahead and move on into the next slide. Thank you, panelists. I appreciate your time. Stay on, please. I'm sure we'll have some questions at the end as well.
Okay.
I wanted to give a quick glance at the pathways to the partnership. Earlier on, I said that I had mentioned of our intentionality behind all of this. It does take some effort in so many different program offices to ensure that there's capacity, that there's staff capacity to be able to maintain and develop these partnerships, and that there's interest in all the parties, et cetera. So with our pilot sites in mind, kind of transitioning into a larger scope, we're looking at expanding this across the US and wherever we're able to capture some partners. So I wanted to give a little visual in here as well. With the with the site selection, we would love to hear if anybody is out there and interested in partnering with us. If you want to share any of your hiring needs, like, oh yeah, we're interested. We have, 6 positions open immediately. We want to partner, etc. From there, we would be assessing those interested CAP locations and playing matchmaker essentially with our public housing authorities and our field offices to ensure that we're partnering you with communities that are nearby, that have capacity, and there is an opportunity and interest to partner. We're hoping to have at least 10 communities, but the more the merrier. And then from there, once we really kind of target or identify those target communities, we would transition it into the HUD field offices for them to really own the partnerships and engagements and facilitate the connection. So they would be, as I said earlier, holding hands and facilitating those partnerships, starting off with like a small virtual roundtable of the local partners just to identify timelines, hiring needs, availability for job fairs or interest. And we really want to put the implementation effort into the hands of the local communities because we don't want to prescribe too much. Every community is different. Everybody has different needs. And we really want to keep that that focus for the local communities, like a kind of place-based initiative effort approach, if you will. So if it works for all the partners to have a job fair, so be it, have a job fair. If it's better to have direct referrals through the staff of the housing authorities to the community action partners saying, hey, John has been doing some great Section 3 work, some maintenance around the housing authority, and he's interested in full-time employment in green energy, construction, weatherization, etc., and taking that referral and moving from there. And then some regular partnership engagement, checking in every month or so, whatever, again, works for the local communities, local partners. But having that relationship being built to determine the best path forward on the local level, and building it from there. And then we would be working with our field offices to kind of hear what's working, what's not, where are our challenges, and then also with our national CAP agency partners, with NASCASP, and continuing the development and strengthening these partnership efforts in any way that we can. So if you're interested and if you want to partner, we would love to hear about it. Go ahead and drop your email into the chat and any other information you want to share, and we will be in touch with you. Now, again, I had mentioned that this largely depends on the capacity of housing authorities, of our field offices, et cetera. So we don't want to overwhelm them too much. So we really want to be intentional so that it is successful for all parties, the housing authorities, the employers, yourselves, the residents. We want to be very intentional with our approach and not rush it and not overwhelm anybody. And still have that flexibility on the local level to do what works for you all. And then I want to pass it to my colleague, Deborah, to share her experience with working with the state of Kentucky. Next slide, please.
Hi, I'm Deborah Knight, and I work in the Louisville, Kentucky office, and I started working on this initiative with Laisha, so it gave me a really good solid foundation upon which to build. In June, I partnered with Community Action of Kentucky, and they offered me a slot at their annual conference. So I was able to present to people about HUD programs in general, as well as this partnership opportunity for the weatherization jobs. Next, I took the feedback that I got from those who attended, and I contacted public housing authority directors to find out if they were interested in partnering. And I had at least one in every area that was represented. I had at least one say, yes, I'm interested. So I was able to provide that connection, but I didn't reach every community action agency in Kentucky at that annual conference. So I collaborated with our state weatherization agency, which is Kentucky Housing Corporation, to survey the community action agencies on the jobs, location, and pay. And I'm going to further follow up on that. So that's what I'm doing in Kentucky so far. Next slide.
Bruce, you're on mute.
Sorry.
There you are. No
Okay, I
worries.
just wanted to make sure you were through, Deborah. So thank you for that. And good afternoon again, everybody. Again, I'm Bruce Brodoff. I'm the Public Affairs Officer for HUD Region 1, and I'm also the Public Affairs Officer for this weatherization charter. Again, the charter, it's an important component of this charter, and I'm looking forward to contributing to the success of the initiative. The main way that we can promote the success of the initiative is to promote it to the general media and to industry partners, as well as internal and external partners. Obviously, it's a way to provide information about what the weatherization program is, the benefit to the citizens that we serve, and how our community partners and other agencies can participate in it. That's the main goal, is to increase the local participation and inspire the partnership and collaboration that will allow us to achieve the goals of the charter. And some of the things that I'm working on, the products that will help achieve this, are both for HUD leadership and for all of our regional offices that'll obviously be involved in this effort. So where we can, I'll put together press releases and news articles about the charter, about what we're doing, what we hope to accomplish. Also success stories, which are very important. Obviously, let the world know what we're doing and the people that are getting sustainable careers through our efforts. I think that's really the most important thing, is getting people hired and providing them with ways to provide for themselves and their families. I would create, or I am creating, talking points for HUD leadership at the headquarters level and also at the regional level, so they're able to amplify the message among the people and agencies and public officials that they deal with. I'm putting together templates for social media postings that our regional offices can use when they want to promote the charter and promote the activities of what they're doing, particularly the job fairs that I'm sure will come of this effort. And to that end, we would have media advisories, particularly for the job fairs. Obviously, let the media know so that they can inform the public. And then what I like are the event flyers. We've done this a few times here in Massachusetts because it really helps us promote the job fairs on the really hyper-local level. So we can provide these flyers to career and employment offices, both state and local employment offices, and in academic institutions, in schools. They could be put up in public housing developments. We could share them with local offices of elected officials that can promote it. So there's a lot to do in the communication space, and I know the heavy work has been done by my colleagues here, and now it's time for the public affairs arm to start contributing, and I'm looking forward to that. So that's it from public affairs.
Next slide, please. Thank you, Bruce.
I'm going to quickly go over some best practices that we identified in working with our 4 pilot sites. The first one is, particularly if it's a job fair, to streamline the application process. You can use a QR code, ask basic questions just to get the ball rolling. That's one recommendation. The next is provide a vision. Is there promotion potential? What's the starting pay and how fast can they progress with pay increases? And then the next is regular check-ins, like every 2 weeks or monthly, to make sure everything is moving along as planned. The next is to offer printed informational materials and social media, and that's where our public affairs person will help. We'd like to target more than one community where possible. For instance, what I'm doing in Louisville, Kentucky is I'm going to target several community action agencies based upon that survey information that I receive and feedback from headquarters. And then we also know that there's going to be some barriers to employment, like what they faced in Georgia, like with childcare or transportation. And we want to see if the community action agencies, if they provide any services to help, or if they know other agencies that provide the services to help. And in some cases, the Public Housing Authority itself may have a vehicle and may be able to help, but we want to address all of that. And then the last one is including contracting partners in the hiring efforts, because they are the ones who are going to ultimately do the hiring. So if they're aware that we have a partnership going on, then they know that we're trying to target the HUD residents, and hopefully it can help influence their decisions.
Thank you, Debbie. We're going to actually stay on the slide for a moment. So we collected these best practices based on the pilot communities, some of the challenges that they faced where people didn't really understand what could come of this career opportunity, where they could go with a retrofitting position. So what does it really mean? What does it mean for their career path? So if there are any, I know that NASCASP is working on some worker engagement programs or information as well. But if there is any materials that could be provided at job fairs or at info tables during these events, and I see Kai just dropped some information into the chat as well. So that was one of the barriers, is really not just saying, look at this job opportunity, here's the description, but what could be built on from that. So that's some of the informational materials and social media that would make this more successful and impactful, and help our residents understand what they're getting into, because I know it's not just easy, it's not just a desk job sitting there comfortably. It is physically difficult work doing these retrofitting jobs. The regular check-in with partners, not just checking in saying, oh, we have these jobs, yeah, we hired this person, etc., but really celebrating the success of the efforts of each of our partners and celebrating the employment success of those that are getting into these opportunities. So kind of checking in, and because we would love to say a year from now, oh, we had X many positions or X many HUD residents hired into weatherization jobs due to this partnership. So having those kind of regular check-ins will help us track that success and the development. And then with the consideration of barriers to employment, Debbie did a great job at explaining these, but this was also one of those that we kind of recognized early on, that, childcare, transportation, basic math or reading skills can be a barrier to these to employment opportunities. I believe it was in Atlanta, they had Health and Human Services express interest as well, and they had some vouchers for childcare. So expanding the partnership to your local partners that have these opportunities to help reduce the barriers to employment, whether that's assistance with transportation or childcare vouchers and programs for low-income individuals. There's a lot that can be done within the communities, and there's so many different organizations, nonprofits, and local partners that can come together to share awareness of their opportunities and expand their employment opportunities. I see are there concerns about HUD residents losing housing eligibility if they gain weatherization employment? That is absolutely a fear for some people. I think it's realistic that we address that and acknowledge that it is a legitimate fear and concern. I know with our Jobs Plus communities, if they are enrolled, and my housing authority friends in Warner Robins, please feel free to jump in and interrupt me because you are the Jobs Plus experts, but they have a program within Jobs Plus that is rental income disregard. So it kind of helps when they have secured a job and their income has increased, but they use this program to make sure that the rent doesn't increase. Did I explain that correctly? Jobs
Yeah, what happens is whatever their rent is at the time, for example, if their rent is $50 and they get hired at a job, and they're on Job Plus, even though in the system their rent will go up, but they will continue to pay the $50, and Job Plus pays the difference. That's how that works. So it doesn't affect them. And in that time, until the grant ends, they can save to purchase a home or move into a home, to get transportation, just to better themselves.
Thank you so much. So that is only with the Jobs Plus funding program. But there are other, and Laura, I believe it's for the duration of the grant program, which was 4 years.
Yes.
Okay. And it depends on when they enroll. So if you guys have the grant funding for 4 years, but John doesn't enroll until the second year, it's only good for 2 years. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. So yes, it is a real fear. And then it kind of comes down to our HUD communities to educate them on the benefits of these economic opportunities, which it really helps to have that printed informational materials and social media so they can see, okay, this job pays X dollars now, but after a year, 1 or 2 years, or as I develop my skills or transfer jobs within weatherization, green industry, however those kind of move forward, they can see the progression there and see the economic impact and opportunity for themselves, which will motivate them to continue to grow. So hopefully I've answered that question. Great question. Thank you, Juliana.
If I could interject, we have a question in the Q&A tab that's been sitting there for a minute. An anonymous attendee asked, is there a training component to the program in Georgia, either pre-employment or upon hire?
Is there for the residents?
Yeah.
No. I don't think so.
No, they're really hired based on their experience and their skill set, but they do obtain training. As a matter of fact, the young man that was hired, he's in the midst of doing training now, off-site training, as well as on-the-job training.
Okay, so I'm going to say there is a training component, right? It's just that it probably is kind of a case-by-case basis. What kind of training is he doing right now?
He's doing the retrofit training.
Mm-hmm. And there's another question in the Q&A tab. When does the Job Plus grant end? What year?
2025.
And
Okay.
I'll expand on that. The Jobs Plus program, they have cohorts of grantees every year. So it's different for every grantee. There's some that it's already expired for, some will be new grantees in the next year. I believe it's usually around like 10 to 15 grantees a year. Maybe a little bit less, but yeah, there's a cohort every year.
And we could possibly get an extension. So,
and some of those that had received it just before or during COVID weren't able to use several of their funds because of COVID and the pandemic. You know, they can't really be doing job fairs, et cetera, those kind of activities. So I believe some of those had been extended as well. I will drop the link to the Jobs Plus website just so you can see what kind of, or where all the grants are across the US and get a little bit more information there. But again, that's not the only self-sufficiency program that HUD has. We also have Family Self-Sufficiency Program and Ross, which I can't remember the words for. But essentially, we do have several HUD grantees, public housing authorities that do like pre-apprenticeship and pre-employment education programs. It depends on the capacity of the HUD grantee, the need of their residents, the funding streams that they have. But there are several that do have like pre-apprenticeship kinds of curriculum to get people ready for construction related jobs, or, you know, there's a whole array of opportunities that they try to push for. And other, you know, yes, internships, they connect them with internship opportunities. We are also connected with Department of Labor's Youth Build program. So we're partners with them on Youth Build. We facilitate connections for Job Corps and apprenticeships. There really is a lot going on in this career space. And so we're really trying to drive that further into this effort of connecting HUD residents to weatherization jobs now as well. Okay, and
there is one other question that came up in the chat.
Thank you.
Laura Whitfield asked, how long do you subsidize their rent?
Oh, we had answered that. That was the
okay.
So it's the duration, it's available for the duration of the HUD grant. So with the grant is 4 years, the Jobs Plus grant is, and the individuals have to enroll with the program to get the rent subsidy, or the rent income disregard. And so it can be up to those 4 years or however many years the grant is active.
Okay, I'm sorry I repeated that.
That's okay. All right, let's go on into the last slide, please. So I think that we have now answered all of the questions. I would love to hear from any of you if you have any initial thoughts and reactions to our suggestion and request to partner. How do you envision a strong partnership for these workforce efforts? And if we're missing anything, you know, we want to make this a truly intentional partnership, not just us directing, hey, we're doing this, but we want to hear from you. You are going to be key partners, and we want to hear your perspectives, how we can make this stronger for everybody in mind. I don't know if participants are able to come off mute or if they should just drop it in the chat.
No? Okay. Thank you all for having this.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
That.
Thank you. Let's see. Amy, are folks able to come off mute?
I was just going to ask Emily to double check, but I believe that we can invite people to raise their hand.
Raise their hand? Fantastic.
Yeah.
We are able to allow attendees to talk if they would like, if that's easier. They just have to raise their hand. Yep.
Well, my preference as host is to encourage everybody to talk. I think a lot of our attendees prefer to lurk and not talk, but we want to see and hear from everybody. So come on, speak up. Pretend that we're in a real room and you've just got a lot of exciting things to say. All right,
As the
Sylvia
weather-
Walker.
Oh,
I just allowed Sylvia to talk, and next is Gary.
Hello, this is Sylvia. Can you hear me?
Yes.
we can.
Okay, so my question I'm asking, I know that you are talking about different providers throughout the country, so clearly the minimum wage rate may differ from state to state, but my question is along the lines of what would be the wage rate that the individuals would start out with in these positions? Would it be more along the lines of minimum wage or above that? My real reason for asking is because in California, our minimum wage rate is going up to $20 an hour effective January 1st for fast food. And these types of occupations will now start to compete with fast food positions. So it's going to become very important for us to be able to market the career pathway for these positions that will lead to a greater earning potential. But just out of curiosity, wanted to know, do they typically start at minimum wage?
I can't speak for HR exactly, but I do know that the candidates are offered minimum wage, and then depending on their experience, that wage can be negotiated. Of course, the goal would be to get those in that already have some type of experience. However, as you said, I think the best way to market it is to show, okay, this is where you start, but this is where you can finish. And hopefully that would attract those looking for more of not just a job, but a career, something that they would like to stay in, where it could be profitable for them and beneficial to the agency.
Thank you, Alma. Next is Gary, and then after Gary will be Emily. Gary, we should be able to hear you now, but I think you need to unmute.
There we go. I'm sorry. This is very timely for us. We're in the process of moving our weatherization program to a new facility. As a part of that, we were going to have a training element, and we're applying for a United Way grant in 3 hours. And so it's very timely. I missed the first part of, unfortunately, I missed the first part of the meeting. I assume the slides will be available. And if we have a question, maybe we contact you today. And then lastly, how long does it take for the HUD finance or not finance grant to what's the process to the length of the process to a typical length to get the grant or to apply for it and receive it?
So I just want to set just to be clear, the Jobs Plus grant is for public housing authorities.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if there are other entities that are able to apply to it. I believe they had already done the NOFO this year, but let me drop the website for Jobs Plus so you can see more about that.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we have several other housing authorities just across the US that have other funding streams for self-sufficiency. So there are the priorities and the focus for connecting HUD residents to self-sufficiency. Sometimes they'll have a staff coordinator focused solely on that, similar to the Jobs Plus program. Other times they may not. And so that's really where the HUD's field office staff can further support in helping connect, the PHA staff that maybe have other priorities on their hands, not just job opportunities for their HUD residents, but can help here. Let me drop that.
And we have a good rapport with with Rick Moore, our housing authority director. So
oh, fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you. And good luck with your grant application, Gary.
Thank you.
Just to reiterate, we will send out the slides in an email to everybody who registered for the session today. And I'll be including also all the links from the chat, and we can add the link to the Jobs Plus program for anyone who wants more information about that.
Thank you.
Gary, I was just gonna just throw out there too, is like once individuals are hired, WAP grantees can use their training and technical assistance funds like they do for any new employees to get them the training that they need to do the WAP job.
Okay. Thank you again.
Mm-hmm.
Great. And then next is Emily Belt. I think you should be able to speak now. You need to unmute.
Me?
Yes, we can hear you, Emily.
Hi there. I just wanted to start by saying thank you for presenting all of this information, and especially for covering some of the challenges that your teams clearly evaluated along the way, like losing eligibility or travel and those many issues that are impacting communities at large. I wanted to ask, when you were pulling all of this stuff together, were there major like FAQs or kind of simple outreach documents you used to reach the communities within community action, or how did that kind of more word of mouth transit stuff go?
So initially for the pilot sites, I worked closely with Department of Energy to identify strong CAP agencies, and we worked with our Jobs Plus program coordinators and leads in the public of Indian housing within HUD to identify Jobs Plus communities. We initially wanted to have the pilot program to be in Jobs Plus communities, specifically because they have a dedicated staff member focused on career opportunities for HUD residents, such as our case managers in Georgia. So we really wanted to start off strong and be able to use these pilot communities to identify the challenges. If it's challenging for these really successful communities, it's going to be challenging for others as well. So we kind of just did a crosswalk of different communities and connected them from there. I had pulled a lot of information from DOE's website for weatherization and shared it with our field offices. I had also created like a little implementation booklet not booklet, it's like 3 PDF pages for the HUD field offices. Like, this is the background of weatherization. This is, our HUD Section 3 labor policy program, and this is kind of how the skills can transfer eventually for these Section 3 jobs once the weatherization jobs not expire, but, maybe funding runs out or, they move on, et cetera. And so there was a lot of crosswalking research between the weatherization program and HUD's programs. And so that's how we kind of decided from there. And then for this new round, we are trying to push it into so many different opportunity, like communities that have different approaches to their career path, career programs for their HUD residents. And then I don't know if we still have Middle Georgia folks on the line, if they had referred to any additional like marketing materials that are online. I do know that was one of the challenges that some of our other pilot sites had faced, is that they just didn't really have many materials to work with to do those outreach. So they kind of had to start at square one. So that's why we had included into our best practices of developing materials that are informational and easy to understand and comprehend and digest from the worker standpoint.
And if I could interject, because I'm wondering if any of those materials might be available in another language, and it ties into a question that we have in the Q&A. It looks like Kai from NASCASP is typing an answer, but I want to highlight that for everyone who's listening and who might listen to the recording later. Second, non-English language materials for recruitment as well as training. If anyone could speak to that, I think that's a really important equity consideration that we could have some discussion around. There's some new information coming into the chat, but like, I know for from a DOE standpoint for some of the tests that are required to get certified, like as a quality control inspector or an energy auditor, which is kind of down the line from some of the entry-level positions. There is the requirement for interpretation to be available. So I don't know if any of that played, like what would be the HUD equivalent or what would be the HUD requirement, and if anyone from Georgia could speak to how that's been handled or if that has even come up in your pilot.
With regard to Spanish language materials?
Yeah, Spanish language or potentially any other languages. I think for most parts of the country, Spanish is probably the most common non-English language, but there are like pockets where you might have Polish or Mandarin, depends.
In our meetings, I don't believe we discussed that. That would probably be a good idea to incorporate that in our next job fair opportunity. But the Warner Robins Housing Authority, they did a great job with putting our flyer together. It had the basic information about what was needed or what they should expect when they come to the job fair. That is a good point that we should include other languages.
And we are looking into it as we speak.
Good to know. A Dincher from the Clean Energy Center at Penn College. Would you like to come off mute? And there you go. See if I can allow you to speak. If you'd like to say out loud some of the content that you posted in the chat, just for this is for the sake of the recording, because a lot of people may absorb this information after today.
Sure, Amy, thank you so much for providing me the opportunity to speak. I did drop a message in the webinar chat. My name is Pam Dincher. I am with the Clean Energy Center at Pennsylvania College of Technology. We are a weatherization training resource here within the state of Pennsylvania. We work very closely with the state weatherization network to provide their technical training and technical assistance here in the state. And we've worked in partnership with them to develop a program called Building Green Futures, which is a pre-employment workforce readiness type training program where we're partnering with community agencies and community nonprofits to recruit individuals into the weatherization workforce, providing them with the basic skills and knowledge that they would need to be successful to obtain a entry-level position in weatherization. And we're partnering with local weatherization employers to complete this training program. It includes not only 2 weeks of classroom training, technical training, but it also pairs 4 weeks of in-field hands-on learning experiences partnered with an employer in this space. And that's kind of what Kai had referenced to earlier. And I'm happy to talk to anybody about that program, what we've learned in running our pilot cohorts, and looking for opportunities, to partner with, potentially look for opportunities to partner here in Pennsylvania to scale that program out. The other thing that I would mention that I want to speak to briefly, we did just release our first marketing resource in Spanish. It is a video featuring one of our weatherization workers here in the state of Pennsylvania, Alejandro Cueto. He is a crew leader currently with a contractor working with one of our agencies here in the state. And that video is available in Spanish, and we've currently released the full feature video, which is about a 4-minute video that talks about what he loves about his job in weatherization and what brought him into this field and what keeps him motivated every day. But we're also getting ready to roll out shorter versions of that, a 1-minute clip, and then some reel style videos to be shared on social media. So if you connect with us on Facebook, I can drop a link to our Facebook page here. We will be rolling those out here in the coming weeks. So if you are looking for resources to market these career opportunities in Spanish, those are available and you are welcome to use them.
Thank you, Pamela. I guess I'll turn it back over to Leisha because I think of you as our main host today.
Thank you. And thank you, Pamela, for sharing all that information. I have a quick follow-up question for you. Is the training that you had mentioned, I think it was 2 weeks classroom and then 4 weeks in person. Are those post being hired or are those pre-hire trainings? And is any of that paid training?
So can everybody still hear me?
Mm-hmm.
All right, great. Fantastic questions. So this program is funded in the state of Pennsylvania through our state grantee, which is the Department of Community and Economic Development. And through that funding, we are able to pay for pay the individuals for a stipend for participating in the training. So it is a paid learning experience, and it is pre-employment. So
Okay.
the end goal for this program is to really give them as a prospective employee the opportunity to try this job on and make sure that this is a fit, and give them that real world experience before they make that commitment. And then likewise, to give the employers an opportunity to test out a potential new hire. And at the end, we want that connection to be positive and transition into a permanent placement, but it does give them both that time to make sure this is a good fit.
Thank you so much. Doesn't look like we have any other questions, and
Leisha, we did get one last
are...
question in the chat.
Oh, maybe?
Well,
How long
somebody
is the
asked,
typical probation period? I think this would be a good employer question.
yeah, and we have a raised hand from Laura Whitfield, but I don't know if that's a newly raised or legacy raised. I clicked allow to talk if you'd like to speak, Laura.
Hi, hi, okay. Yeah, that was my question, and it was kind of in relation to Pamela Dencher's presentation or discussion. And she said that the applicants were given the opportunity pre-employment to get training, and then they had a period of time to kind of try the job on, and also for the employer to see if this would work as well. So it was kind of a probation period for both sides. And I was just curious, was that like a month? How long did you kind of set as a good idea for a probation period for both sides?
So our program is structured so that there are 2 weeks of in-class training followed by 4 weeks in the field. And then that typically concludes the program. So at the end of that 4-week period, typically there's a decision.
Okay, so that 4-week period or that month, that's kind of like the opportunity for everyone involved to see, is this a good fit?
Absolutely. Yep.
Thank you.
Amy, I think that we can wrap it up from here. I had dropped in my email, but when you send this out, I would absolutely love it if you included my email on the follow-up. Anybody can reach out and ask me questions, or if they later express interest in partnering, would love to hear from them, and we welcome it.
Yeah, thank you for being such an active host, Leisha. When we send the email out, I will send it and I'll CC you so that everyone who receives it can, if they do reply, it'll go to you and I if they have any questions. So everybody will have that right in their inbox. We will try to capture all of the supplemental informational links that came up in the chat and add those to the body of the email that we send out. So within a few days, everybody will have sort of a synopsis of all the resources from today. It's going to be the slides, a link to the recording, and then in the body of the email, a collection of links that are related to our conversation today. So thank you to everyone who stuck around for the Q&A portion. You are officially dismissed, and I look forward to hearing from you in response to our email if you have any follow-up questions. Thank you to our wonderful panelists as well.
Thank you so much for having
Thank
us.
you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
Thank you, everyone. This was great.